A few crumbs of soil tap softly onto the potting bench in the dusk. Your fingers are still dark with earth when they brush the surface of a leaf, and for a second, something in your body settles before your mind can even catch up. From the outside, it can look like one more quiet garden habit, maybe even a slow and harmless way to fill time. But that reading misses the pressure underneath. For some people, stillness does not feel peaceful first. It feels exposed. And what looks like a tiny ritual with dirt and leaves may actually be one of the few ways the body remembers how to come back down. That is why this moment is not really about the plant alone. It is not just care or preference or a personality quirk that makes someone unusually drawn to small living things. Sometimes people are not avoiding life when they reach for soil, moisture, and one simple task. They are trying to get their body back. The hand touches something cool, real, and responsive, and the nervous system meets a form of contact that does not rush, argue, or demand performance. So if this calms them that fast, then the ritual is doing more than gardening. And then something quieter starts to show up. On a sunny patio after watering, you push one finger lightly into the top layer of soil in a terracotta pot, checking the moisture without needing to think very hard about it. The appeal is not only that the plant needs something, it is that the exchange is simple. The soil is either damp or dry. The leaf is either firm or beginning to curl. The hand responds, and the world answers back in a way that feels clear. That kind of clarity can matter more than people realize. In other parts of life, tension is often vague, emotional, and hard to name. But here, the body meets one surface, one task, one result. There is no argument to manage, no mood to explain, no invisible pressure that keeps shifting shape. For many older adults, that is where the first real easing happens. Not because the garden creates some perfect peace, but because it gives the nervous system something slow, physical, and trustworthy enough to hold. And that is only the visible layer. What makes this stronger than a simple hobby is where the pattern often comes from. Many people who feel this kind of release around soil and leaves have spent years living inside responsibility, alertness, and the habit of responding quickly to other people's needs. Then life gets quieter. The house is less demanding. The roles shift. The noise goes down. And instead of feeling instantly relieved, they begin to notice how much tension was sitting in the body all along. You can see it in a smaller moment than most people would ever think to name. A plant sits on the windowsill with one leaf starting to soften at the edge, and the hand rests there a second before touching it. The action is tiny, but the path underneath it is not. For some older adults, this is not mainly about loving nature in an abstract way. It is a more physical route back to steadiness. The hand reaches first, because the body often finds safety faster than language does. And that is where the habit stops looking accidental. The part that looks small from the outside is not small at all. Along the raised bed, you slide a hand trowel under the top layer of soil, lift just enough to see its texture, then stop. That pause holds a kind of intelligence people rarely talk about. It is not dramatic, it is not loud, but it is precise. You notice what is changing. You respond without overdoing it. You stay close enough to the problem to help, but not so forceful that you damage what you are trying to steady. That is a real strength, especially later in life. For many older adults, these rituals preserve a practical kind of self-trust that goes deeper than productivity. They prove that your attention still works, your touch still works, your judgment still works. A small adjustment creates a real change, and the body feels the truth of that immediately. What others may dismiss as fussing can actually be a mature form of regulation built out of patience, accuracy, and contact with something real. And that same strength will matter even more when the harder layer begins to show. And this is where the habit stops looking simple. You sit on the porch step with your gloves beside you, meaning to rest for a minute, then stand back up to pull one more yellowed leaf from a pot that could easily wait until tomorrow. From the outside, that can look like restlessness, maybe even an inability to leave things alone. But sometimes the pressure is more private than that. When the body has learned to settle through touch, motion, and one manageable task, empty time can start to feel sharper than other people understand. That does not make the ritual unhealthy or false. It means the calm it provides may be carrying more weight than it first appears to carry. The strength is real. The garden gives the body a way back. But there is a cost hiding inside that strength too. If steadiness comes most easily when the hands are busy with soil, leaves, and small corrections, then moments without that pathway can feel strangely bare. And once that becomes true, the misunderstanding from the outside only gets deeper. And this is where people often read it wrong. At the side yard, you turn off the hose nozzle and leave your hand resting on the warm rubber a second longer before winding it back onto the reel. Someone else may see too much attachment to small routines, or assume this is just a quiet way of avoiding more important parts of life. Society is especially quick to shrink these moments into something harmless and slightly quaint. A little gardening, a little fussing, a little old-age slowness dressed up as preference. But the inner reality is usually sharper than that. What looks like a hobby from the outside can be the shortest path out of overload from the inside. The hand is not reaching for a pastime so much as for a surface the body can trust. That is the double truth hidden in habits like this. The action really is small, and the work it is doing is not small at all. It steadies the system in a way conversation, distraction, or willpower sometimes cannot. And once a ritual starts doing that kind of quiet survival work, the deeper meaning changes. The more private layer usually shows up later. Back at the potting bench in the dusk, you press your fingers into a seed tray, one space at a time. Each small pocket made with the same pressure, the same rhythm, the same breath. What settles here is not only stress in the ordinary sense. For some older adults, the deeper relief comes from the kind of contact this world offers. The soil does not question your mood. The leaves do not ask you to explain yourself. The plants respond, slowly, clearly, and without turning your state into a problem to solve. That matters because many people reach later life carrying more inner strain than they show. They are tired of performing okay, tired of being quick, agreeable, or emotionally legible on demand. In the garden, none of that is required. The body can soften without being watched too closely. And when that kind of non-intrusive contact becomes rare elsewhere, a simple ritual with soil and leaves begins to hold something much larger. It is no longer just a calming task. It is one of the places where dignity returns in a form the body can still believe. It is worth asking whether you only let yourself settle when your hands are busy touching, watering, or tending something small. If that is true, it does not make the calm less real. It shows how intelligently your system learned to find its way back. What looks like a tiny garden habit can actually be a steadying ritual your body trusts before your mind can explain it. So this is not dependence on plants at all, but a private language of regulation built out of slow contact, repetition, and safety. By the backyard edge, you clip one dry stem with the pruning shears and set them down as if the motion finished something larger than the branch itself. This is the part many people never see clearly. They see someone older staying busy with dirt, leaves, and little routines that seem too minor to matter. They may even assume it is just sensitivity or loneliness dressed up as preference. But what is actually happening inside can be very different. Sometimes the person is not trying to pass time at all. They are trying to bring their body out of a state that has been running too high for too long. And that is the social translation most people miss. Not everyone settles by talking more, naming more, or being understood in words first. Some people settle when their hands meet something living that does not demand anything back except care. The calm is not small. It is your system recognizing a place it can trust. And once you understand that, the ritual no longer looks like over-attention. It looks like one quiet way a person keeps from disappearing inside their own tension. By evening, the potting bench is dim again, and a little soil still sits in the lines of your fingers. At the beginning, that image could have looked like nothing more than a private garden habit, one small ritual in a quiet life. But it means more now. The hand touching earth is not only tending a plant, it is finding a form of safety that does not rush in, misread, or ask the body to perform steadiness before steadiness has actually returned. That is why the ritual can matter so much without looking dramatic. What it offers is not busyness for its own sake, and not some sentimental attachment to plants that other people are too practical to understand. It offers a place where the nervous system meets slowness, contact, and response in a form it can still trust. And for some older adults, that trust is doing more than making the evening feel calmer. It is helping the self stay intact, one quiet touch at a time. There is a reason this kind of comfort can feel so necessary. The deeper fear is not really about the garden. It is the fear of being left inside an inner state that feels too tense, too exposed, or too hard to settle alone. So when soil, leaves, and a repeated touch begin to steady the body, that is not a flaw in character. It is a signal. It means the body has found one honest way to come back to itself. And sometimes what looks smallest from the outside is quietly holding the most together.